There are some anime series out there where they sound really good on paper, but their execution is just horrible. Like today's topic, Cleopatra DC. Cleopatra DC is a 3-episode OVA based around espionage. You have a team of a separate branch of the American government that specializes in electronic transactions called Cleopatra DC. Their job is to make sure that America has enough revenue and natural resources to keep the economy afloat. Whenever our resources get threatened, Cleopatra DC sends out its agents to deal with the problem. Our main heroes are Cleo, the chipper and headstrong main agent, her assistant Swen, who does a lot of the paperwork and information gathering, and finally Naki, who's basically Cleo's overglorified driver. Their main enemy is another group of money-hungry mercenaries called Slender, who only have 3 main people outside of the countless amounts of nameless henchmen, and they are Dr. Randall, the fearless leader of the group, his secretary, who likes to bark orders, and finally we have the Colonel, who acts as the group's main brute force. These two forces are in constant conflict with each other, and it's up to Cleopatra DC to protect America's economy from financial ruin. Now I'm gonna level with all of y'all. This sounds like a really cool idea. You got spies fighting for the protection of America's economy with a really strong female lead. This is like the perfect mix of an action, adventure, and moments of fan service, which is great for an anime. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and there are several things that are holding Cleopatra DC back. The number one thing you really can't miss is the low quality of the animation. This OVA is plagued with a bunch of flaws throughout the entire course of this 2-hour video. The most common area where the animators seem to goof up a lot are the eyes. These people have no idea how big eyelashes are supposed to be. Most of the time it looks like all the female characters are wearing too much mascara and it's all clumped itself into one giant knot of an eyelash. Plus, it's something that's kind of hard to ignore since we spend a lot of time looking at close-ups of the characters' faces. While we're talking about the eyes, good God do we need to talk about Swen here. In every shot that she's in, her left eye is above her hair. And when I say every shot, I mean every damn shot. No matter what angle you look at her from, her left eye will always be on top of her hair. There's never a moment in this OVA where this character looks normal, and it's incredibly distracting. Other animation hiccups are, but not limited to, repeating use of animation, repeatedly, and rolling backgrounds. See, she passes by this bookstore like 3 times. Not only does the quality of the animation suck, the designs for these characters aren't much to talk about either. While they do a good job of making the characters identifiable within the series itself, they all do look horrifically generic, even for the late 80s, early 90s period in which this was released. The other huge problem with this series is that it doesn't flow very well. Each of the 3 episodes individually do feel long, drawn out, and worst of all, you can lose focus of what's going on pretty quickly with all the political spy talk going on. Then, to add problems on top of that, the flow between episode to episode is very uneven and disorientating. Example, episode 1 is about the Slender group taking over control over oil fields, and it's possibly the most confusing of the 3. Then you jump to episode 2, where the plot is an incredibly simple one about the Slender group trying to get their hands on a girl with a very large diamond, which they hope to use to create a giant space laser. You go from this semi-hard-to-follow story to this very easy point A to point B story, and it makes the second episode look slower and simpler in comparison. Although at least the first 2 episodes were similar in theme, they're a very generic spy story. The 3rd episode is anything but that. The closest thing I can compare it to would be a rejected episode of X-Men. The 3rd episode deals with a side project created by the Slender Group where they're trying to create biological psychic super soldiers. When Dr. Randall's secretary sees that the project has become a giant failure, she orders the lab to be destroyed before it is discovered by Cleopatra DC. During the explosion, the last of the test subjects gets jolted to life and tries to run away from Slender. The test subject is able to teleport to where Cleo is taking her vacation, and Cleo takes the young girl in to discover more about her. The test subject, aka the mutant, who Clara names Sarah, is discovering her powers for the first time and is coming to terms with them, while Cleo becomes Professor Xavier and acts like her moral compass. When Slender, or at this point the Brotherhood, find out that Sarah is alive and well, they kidnap her and plan to mold her into the perfect killing machine. When Sarah figures out that she doesn't like being controlled, she goes nuts and starts attacking normal humans regardless of what group they belong to. Then, to get rid of the Earth scum known as the human race, she goes to NORAD, a very real American Army base located in the Colorado Rockies, to take control of the SG-1 and to summon the alien Egyptian gods to invade Earth. Wait, no, I'm thinking of Stargate. Actually, Sarah goes to NORAD to take control of all the nuclear vessels in order to launch them all at once, destroying all life as we know it. And this is where I begin to call bullshit on this movie. You see, in this movie, they state that in order to get the nuclear vessels to launch, you need to be given a password by the president, a password that only he himself knows. Sarah, having gained the mystical BS powers of computer hacking, tries to get the password from the computer itself, but the computer is never given the password itself in the event that someone tries to do what Sarah is doing. That's just stupid. If the computer doesn't know what the password is, how is it going to be able to unlock the firing commands when it doesn't even know the right password? Even if you type the right password, the computer won't know, and it will think that you're trying to hack into its system and lock you out. Which brings me to the next problem in this computer programming. In the event that you do get the password wrong, the computer gives you 2 more tries to get it right. Why does it give you 3 tries? This isn't like getting into your bank account where after 3 tries it just says, sorry, we can't give you your account information. This is a computer system that launches nuclear missiles. The person who's going to be launching these things better damn well know the password. There's no, error, please try again. The computer should just go ahead and say,
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
This just sets up the possibility for the wrong people to get their hands on these weapons of mass destruction. Hell, you would think that NORAD, of all people, would have better safety precautions. Oh, and check out one of the 3 passwords that they try out.
No stairway. Denied.
Anyhow, let's move on from this stupid computer programming nonsense and get to the ending, which is both generic and predictable. Cleo makes her way to where Sarah has barricaded herself and talks her out of destroying the world. After one last fight with the Colonel, the 2 teleport out of harm's way, and with that, Sarah loses her powers, making her useless to the Slender, and Cleo adopts her, even though she's 16 and she can't legally do that. So that's the end of that. Overall, while this OVA has a very cool premise, it doesn't do much to execute it, and even then it gets so derailed by its insane 3rd episode that it forgets what it set out to do in the first place. The OVA is plagued with animation hiccups, weak flat characters, and it's very slow. Even worse, when this OVA does do something right, like taking an underhanded blow at the Dirty Harry movies, it takes about 2 steps backwards every single time, like with this fight scene against the Colonel.
その可愛い顔をぐしゃぐしゃにしてやるぜ。
カイさん案外怖がりなんだ。ティーナと変わんないのね。
Worst takedown ever. This is Hitch, signing out.
あんたたち魔法の絨毯でもなくしちまったのかい。